So I mentioned quite a while ago, well, I don't know, maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, something like that, that all of my videos on here were going to get a bit more bookish because that's the kind of general direction that I want my YouTube to go in. I'm still going to be doing hauls and things like that, but I really wanted to explore that side of it a bit more because all I do are my kind of standard monthly book haul and that's it in terms of book content. I don't really chat about them in any more detail. So today's video, which you will have guessed from the title, is all about kind of a good set of 5 classics to choose 1 or 2 or all 5 from that will are easy to get into reading classics. I absolutely love reading classics. Is something that makes me feel really, I don't know, just really kind of good. I'm like, yeah, I've read that, I can do this. When I first started doing my English Lit degree, I felt quite intimidated because even though I'd read some, a lot of the people on my course had read 300 and just scorned me for not having read as many of them as they had. But yeah, basically I'm going to chat quickly through these 5 and why I think they're good ones to start with. So the first up is The Picture of Dorian Gray, and my one is, if you want to use a nice word, we'll go with well loved, but it's basically battered. I studied it at A level and at degree level, which is why it's got all these little notes in it. I've kind of scribbled all over it and underlined my favourite bits. I think I wrote an essay on mental health at when I was doing my degree and included this and spoke about how the kind of bad side of Dorian was could be a depiction of like mental health problem. But yeah, it's quite nice and short for a classic. It's got fairly nice sized font and it's the one that's all about Dorian Gray who wants to do bad things but wants to stay young. He's really terrified of getting old basically, so he gets this portrait made and he does a pact with the devil and the portrait kind of takes on all his sins. So Dorian stays young and he stays beautiful and the picture starts rotting and growing old. That doesn't really spoil too much of it. You can kind of tell from the title. But yeah, it's a really one where it's easy to see what they're trying to say. They're trying to say that sinning is bad and there's kind of a consequences for his actions. Like you can't just sin and get away with it. It's obviously like quite an old novel. It was written in the early 1900s, I believe. The late 1800s. It was published in 1891. So very much still quite a conservative British society, but it's very much a Gothic book, which I don't know, I really like the idea of reading Gothic books as a way to get into classics. If you like them, then I would definitely recommend Frankenstein and The Monk, which is one of my all-time favourites, as well as Dracula. They're some kind of staple Gothic novels to read. The Diary of Anne Frank is the next one that isn't always counted as a classic, but I personally would. It's something that you can really connect with, and as it's a real story, as such filtered through the lens of this child, it's just so powerful. And yeah, again, this is quite a short novel. I read it as a child or as a teen, and I've read it a few times now. Again, this is quite a battered old one, but it's just something that if you want to connect with the Holocaust and if you want to connect with the state of Europe in World War II, then this is something that it's important to read, I think. And the fact that it's so emotional and you get so connected with the characters makes it a really easy classic to read in terms of you can really get into it, but kind of a hard classic to read on your emotions. Right. And then we have The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which everyone and their mum has read. I'm pretty sure it's on every single English A-level curriculum in the UK. I really like my copy of it. Again, this is one that I used for studying at A-level and at uni again. But it's one of Fitzgerald's very short novels. He has done a couple of longer ones. I think Tender as the Night is a bit longer. But basically this again is kind of an allegorical novel, and it's very easy to see the connection between things. So it's all about Gatsby, who has a dream of marrying this woman called Daisy, and he builds a house, he comes from nothing, and he basically makes himself, he completely reinvents himself, and it's all to do with the American dream. Daisy for him is a symbol of the American dream. He is kind of one of the immigrants that came to America and thought that everything was going to be wonderful and that the American dream was a real thing that happened for everybody, and it's just not. And Fitzgerald kind of shows the breakdown of that through the narrator Nick Carraway, and there's a lot of kind of colour symbolism, which is really nice. It was a really nice thing to have when you were studying to pick out. So the green light that Gatsby looks at is like a symbol of hope. Daisy's always wearing white, she's like the symbol of purity, and yeah, there's a lot of red kind of for like danger and passion and sin, and it's just, I don't know, I just really like it. I've read it quite a few times now, and I know a lot of people that studied this with me really hated the fact that we picked it apart so much, but I found it just a really nice novel to do that with. Love Gatsby. This one is, so it's the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, but I just picked it out as any of the kind of like Sherlock Holmes novels by Arthur Conan Doyle. These are something that I put off reading forever because I thought it was going to be a really dry classic, a really boring kind of intense one, but actually a lot of the Sherlock Holmes stories are very short. A lot of the books are actually made up of multiple Sherlock Holmes stories, and the first one I read, I just absolutely flitted through. It'd been sitting on my shelf for years and years and years, and I'd been avoiding it because I was intimidated by it. But actually, yeah, it's a really easy classic to kind of whiz through. I've bought a couple more now because it was just so nice to read these short detective stories. Yeah, and they're all one of like, Arthur Conan Doyle is a really famous author obviously, and all of the Sherlock Holmes novels are classics. And yeah, it's just definitely a really nice one to ease you into it. And a lot of like early crime novels are a lot more intense, like the Wilkie Collins novels are a lot longer, and I just think that's a really nice place to start. And then finally, I've got one that has like, I just really love this cover. So it's Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. There's quite a lot of kind of children's novels that are classics. So there's The Wizard of Oz, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Alice Through the Looking Glass. And again, I quite like this one because it's got like little drawings in and the font's quite big, which helps. But yeah, it's something that it is a classic and it is something you should read, and it's because it's designed for children. The language isn't particularly difficult, even though sometimes the hardest part about the language of classics is that it is a bit outdated, and obviously this is still a little bit outdated, but it's kind of the Enid Blyton-esque children's book that's a bit longer, and I definitely would think that it's a suitable book for adults as well. So yeah, that's kind of my roundup of 5 easy classics, or 5 classics that I think are easy to get into, to kind of say like, yeah, I've read some classics and I enjoyed them. But yeah, let me know if you want me to do something like this again, because as I was looking for a good 5 to talk about, I found some others that I really love and I really think aren't intimidating. But yeah, if you want any kind of more classics related videos, because I've read quite a few because of my English Lit course, then please let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you guys again soon. Thank you for watching. Bye!